Thank you everyone for making the time and for joining us. We have today with us Jeff Chisum. Jeff is with Northpointe Mortgage now, and they're lenders. They work in all 50 states, which is why we love them in our community, because they can work with you no matter where you're looking to get your short-term rentals or long-term rentals, essentially. And I like Jeff more because he's an educator. He's been in the space, and he's been on multiple groups. I've heard him speak at summits, and he's an educator at heart. So a lot of what he does is not just telling you what the rules are, but also explaining why it is what it is. And I find that super beneficial. So before we get started, guys, for everyone, within our community, we talk about strategy all the time, and your strategy is personal, right? To you, everyone is going to have a different strategy, and it is dependent on your goals, which depends on what your passive income goals are and how much time you want to put into your portfolio over time. But it's also dependent on your resources, which is going to be the time that you have to put into it, but more importantly, how much money you have. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. How to be responsibly leveraged, and how to use leverage to really accelerate and give you that momentum so you can scale rapidly and get to your goals faster. We're going to talk about a bunch of things. We're going to talk about conventional mortgages, owner-occupied financing. I know Jeff talks a lot about short-term rentals, and a lot of you are trying to get short-term rentals. So we're going to talk a lot about that. But the goal is to see how we can get lower down payments if possible, better rates, creative financing, and what do you do when you try to purchase a property within an LLC. So we'll go over all of that. Jeff, thank you for being with us today.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited. That's a great introduction.
It's just the thing everyone's talking about right now is the interest rate hikes. And I was thinking maybe we could just start with that, what the predictions are, what to expect, and how it really affects people in terms of cash flow, because everyone on here, most of us are thinking about it as an investor, right? And I also know that, especially even with Northpointe, some of our members have reached out. We're now beginning to see how ARMs may be beneficial. So if you could talk about all of that.
Yeah, sure. So I think in the United States, we get pretty spoiled and, have short-term memories at times. And so, these rates are pretty normal in kind of the broad scope of things. So what we've had for the past few years has been historically low. And sure, yeah, we absolutely love historically low. But that's not necessarily, over the history of mortgages, what the United States has operated in. So, it's a little bit tough pill to swallow because people are so rate conscious. So, on a $500,000 deal, what we've seen, just as an example, what we've seen with the increase in interest rates, it's going to affect your cash flow about $150 to $200 a month. So, that's why I like short-term rental, because, cash flow is pretty significant. And when, I'm not going to throw $200 away, but it's not going to stop me from going out there and buying a cash flow, appreciable asset that has some tax benefits, some tax write-off benefits. So, we haven't seen adjustable rates be relevant in a long, long time. I can't remember the last time I talked about them, because there really was no margin between adjustable rates and fixed rates. And so now they are coming into the discussion, and it's something to be considered. So, in the past, if you thought adjustable rates were the big bad monster, it probably came from 2008, when there were some crazy products out there. People were underwater in properties, and they couldn't get out of the adjustable rate. And so, it was kind of a ticking time bomb on a perfect storm back in 2008, where people with adjustable rates did get bit a bit because they just didn't have other options. Right now, what we're seeing is the margin between a fixed rate and a adjustable rate is about 1 to 1.5%. So, you're talking a $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 deal. That's pretty significant amount of money. We really don't like to talk about the 3-5 year ARM. Typically, doesn't really fit with our client strategy anyway. You know, there are some people in it for the short game, but most are in it for the long haul. So, you know, we really are looking at the 7, the 10-year arm. And you know, you can have a lot of movement. You can have a lot of things that happen in 7 to 10 years. So, yeah, you start adding up that money over that period of time, it becomes very significant, and yeah, definitely something to heavily consider. I think I covered everything you just mentioned.
You did. I have a tendency to throw out multiple questions at the same time, but you did. You did good.
That's I just
Jeff,
want to
no,
make sure I get it all. That's fine.
yeah, yeah, and you're absolutely right. You know, interest rates have been historically low. When I started investing in 2014, 4.75 was considered a good rate, you know, and now 4.75 is like, okay, well, rates have gone up. And I think, was it 10, 20 years ago, where 18% wasn't unheard of in terms of interest rates. So you are right, we're completely spoiled with these really low rates. But I like how you put it in perspective for a property you're looking at, especially if it's a short-term rental, right? You're looking at a difference of 150 to 200 to $500 possibly. I mean, to $200 in mortgage in your cash flow, right? Decreasing, and especially if it's a short-term rental, or if you're even trying to do a BRRRR project where you may have a higher cash flow from that property, that is something you can absorb and still have a deal that makes a lot of sense. And you importantly pointed out that when you're looking at those ARM products, you're better off going for those longer ARMs as opposed to like a 3 or 5 year ARM. What about the prepayment penalties with those? I mean, is it different in any way, or is it very similar to your other conventional mortgages?
Yeah, the only product that we have that has a prepayment penalty is the Dscr loan,
Mhm.
and that's within a 3-year period of time. So, yeah, everything else is not going to have a prepayment penalty.
Okay, and that's usually pretty standard. Jeff, can you talk? I think I've heard you say that at Northpointe you don't do commercial loan products, right? There, you don't do any commercial loans, correct?
Yeah, commercial in the sense that it's something out of the scope of a 4-unit property, residential. So, yeah, we can do anything up to 4-unit residential. Um, a lot of times I will get the question, you know, do you do commercial loans? And really, what the client is looking for is a DSCR loan. So that's a
Got it.
loan where, you know, we can do it in the name of an LLC. We're not looking at personal income. You can hold title in the name of an LLC. So very similar to a commercial loan, but it is something that I can do as a residential mortgage.
And you can only do those for 4 units and under properties, essentially.
Yeah, 4 units and under that product, we can do non-warrantable condos, condotels. So that's a popular product. Our opportunity with the DSCR and people that are looking for buying condos, you know, without having to qualify with the full document, full debt to income ratio calculation type loan.
Yeah, I want to get into that because, but before that, Jeff, can you explain? Because a lot of our members, some of them have purchased properties within an LLC, or they're doing a 1031, and they're like 3 or 4 unit properties, but and sometimes they end up getting commercial loan products. Can you talk about how conventional mortgages, especially for those 4 units and under properties, are beneficial as opposed to a commercial loan product?
Well, I don't have a lot of experience with commercial loans, so I can't speak in detail about that. Typically, on a commercial loan, they want to get their money back quicker. So you'll have something built in, like you know, you don't have anything else but an option to do a shorter term arm, or you know, it has a 5-year, 7-year balloon payment. So they typically have some type of feature built in where the bank wants to get their money sooner than, you know, what the loan is actually amortized over a 30-year period, you know, or typically 20 years. But yeah, 20-year amortization, but you've got a 7-year balloon. So they want their money back quicker. These DSCR loans, you can get a 30-year fixed rate. You can even get a 40-year interest-only loan with the DSCR. So talking
Oh,
about
wow.
cash on cash returns, you know, maximizing your cash flow, that 40-year interest-only may be an option that people would be interested in.
Wow, that's actually that's the first time I'm hearing about the 40-year interest only for the DSCR loans, Jeff. That's amazing. Now, are the interest rates significantly different for those products compared to your conventional mortgage, say, or your second home loans?
Yeah, they're going to run typically 1 to 1.5% higher than like the Fannie 10% down second home occupancy loans. So yeah, understandably, you're not having to prove income or what they're looking for there is someone who you have to have a personal guarantor, even though it doesn't go on your credit. But they're looking for uh, the the equal or majority owner in that LLC has excellent credit, good mortgage payment history.
Yeah, that's interesting because I know that in the short-term rental space, especially especially in some of the beach markets, those beachfront properties essentially are non-warrantable. So you have to get a DSCR loan product, and you can't really get a second home mortgage on those homes, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Now we do have some portfolio products we can use in that space. The interest rates are going to be a little bit better. The nice thing with Northpointe is we have one loan application for all products. So where it may be a little bit of a wasted time for someone that is going to do a DSCR loan, they absolutely know they show no income on their tax returns or little, they're not going to qualify. Yeah, that's a little more work, but what we found is that through filling out that entire application and us having us do a review, we do find people that they've got several options to choose from. So, it could be that a bank statement loan is a better opportunity, that it does have a 10% down feature up to $3 million loan amount. And then, they may think that they have to go DSCR on non-warrantable or condo-tel. And we find that, they actually do qualify for one of our portfolio products and, a little bit lower down payment, a little better interest rate. So it's nice to have options and be able to choose versus being forced into something. So.
Yeah, and that's the most important thing because in the community we have members who are still residents, so their income isn't significantly high. So sometimes they're not able to qualify for your regular conventional mortgage. We have those properties that are non-warrantable, and then sometimes we have people who've just have multiple other loans and they've hit their DTI, which is their debt to income ratio, guys. Is it 43%? Once you hit that number, then you don't really qualify for a conventional mortgage anymore, correct?
Well, we can go up to 50%.
50%.
So Fannie allows 50%. 43 is associated with a lot of jumbo investors. Some originators do have overlays where they will only go up to 42, 43, sometimes 45% DTI. But yeah, we can go all the way up to 50% with conventional. And actually some of our portfolio products as well, we can go up to 55%.
Oh, wow, that's great. So Jeff, between the DSCR, the portfolio, and the bank statement loans, I think the great thing is that, like you said, you could put in one application and then you would analyze to see which actually makes more sense. But just as maybe like a broad overview, when should someone consider, say, a portfolio or a bank statement loan?
That is typically going to be for someone who is self-employed, that they write off as much as the law will allow. Maybe they have a spouse or someone that's going to be on the loan with them that has W-2 income. So it's not that we're just 100% exclusively using bank statements to extrapolate the qualifying income piece. There may be Schedule C, Schedule E, 1099, W-2. We can use all those to, bring into the pool of income and extrapolate that qualifying income amount. So yeah, it's a great product because we're not going to just look at one thing. We're going to look at everything. So,
Yeah, Yeah, and I'm thinking for a lot of physicians who are who have 1099 income but don't have like 2 years of that income, or maybe even those who have a large income combined, but they're doing cost segregation and they tap on, when they file taxes, they have like very little income. For all those people, those bank statement loans may be an option for them to consider.
Yeah, absolutely. And, my team only works with investors that are buying um, investment properties. Of course, there's spinoffs where we'll help a physician using our very well-known physician loan
Mm,
purchase a primary residence. We can also use that on a second home. But um, yeah, there's a lot of good options that people just don't know about. And being experts in the space, I didn't just fall into my alignment with Northpointe. Before I came on with Northpointe, I was already in the space working with the investors. It was just limited because I wasn't in all 50 states. I had one product, which was a conventional with a piggyback second.
yeah.
But beyond that, I told people, sorry, I can't help you, go here, go there. And so, when my past bank told me that I couldn't originate outside of Texas because regional managers were getting offended with how many deals we were doing in their backyard, I was a little defeated, but then soon realized it was an opportunity to create a wish list where we were missing opportunities to help clients. And at the end of the day, Northpointe was able to fulfill 99.5% of those. So yeah, our team is very well versed in moving a lot of moving parts and pieces. So it's not, our clients are not cookie cutter W-2 employees. They own multiple pieces of real estate. They have multiple income streams. We know that we can add back in depreciation into the income calculation. We know what we can add back in to be considered with the income. So yeah, you want someone, there's a very well-known company out there that has spent millions, if not billions of dollars, it seems like, in this notion that you can just push a button and get a mortgage. And that will only go so far for so many people. And in this space, because of the complexity, everything that's involved, you want someone that knows what they're doing and isn't just.
Hey, Jeff, I think I lost you a little bit towards the end there. I'm not sure if it was just me.
Did I come back on?
Yes, I think you did.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, my earbud died. Sorry about that.
That's okay. No, I completely agree. I like how you took those limitations and you created this opportunity to grow and just be able to provide more in terms of what you can to investors, and being able to work with them across the country is, especially in this environment, is so important because people tend to get one short-term rental in one market and then move on to the next. So it's really nice to be able to have one place where you can, one lender who can help you across the country.
Well, and something that I cannot emphasize enough, because and your members will be able to relate to this, because I don't know how many people are on that right now, but almost everyone has done it, where the thought is, okay, when I find the property, that's when I will get pre-approved. And in these markets, if you take that approach, you will be in a situation where you find a great property, all the numbers look great. It's a place that your family's going to enjoy going and staying, and then you'll rent it out on a short-term basis. You're excited. And then 3 hours later, your realtor tells you, hey, never mind, I don't need that pre-approval letter. It's already under contract.
Yeah.
So yeah, I tell clients, if you are of the mind that you want to do something within the next 6 months, now is the time to get pre-approved. Don't worry about, the fact that you haven't even chosen an area. That's the big thing about being able to originate in all 50 states is, that's not what's important, because we can take that pre-approval letter and go anywhere. What's important is once you decide the area and you find the property, you can say, yep, here we go. I've got the pre-approval ready to go. Let's make an offer on this place. So yeah, that's huge. The other thing that I tell clients on consultation calls is it's a little more work to establish key relationships with the people that you need on your team. So realtor, property manager, but if you can put in the legwork to have those conversations and stay connected with those people in 3 different markets, you've now increased your opportunity that a property is going to come up because you've increased the amount of markets that you're looking in. So if you just concentrate on one area, you're limited to the to that inventory in that area. But if we can kind of look at 3 different areas, and maybe they're in different states even, it's going to increase the opportunity that a house is going to pop up that's going to work for you. So in this model, you know, whether you're in Tennessee or Georgia, North Carolina, Hawaii, that's great. Once you
Yes.
decide where you want to make that offer, the letter is going to be ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And even within the program, you know, creating generational freedom, members typically pick 2 or 3 markets to start exploring so that they can run numbers and see what even makes sense. And having a lender who works across those markets is just super helpful. Jeff, now, when I was looking at second home loans, I remember you talking about what qualifies as a second home, right? And in my head, it was always the 50-mile radius, and it has to be 50 miles from your primary residence. And you said that that doesn't really hold true. And so can we talk a little bit about that, you know, what can qualify as a second home, and then about having maybe more than one in the same market and how that would work?
Yeah, so there's absolutely no distance requirement. So if you have someone that says it's got to be 50 miles, 100 miles, that is incorrect. There's nowhere within Fannie Freddie guidelines, rules that say mileage requirement. So the intention has to be that you're going to occupy that property at some point during the year. So that's the other thing, is there's no amount of days. There's no percentage of the year that you have to occupy it. The big key is that you can't lose the ability to occupy that property during that first year. So you can't lose control over the ability to occupy the property. So that means you can't be in a long-term rental agreement. You can't be in any type of agreement where that person would go from a guest to a tenant. So most states, that's going to be 30 days or more. And the way I describe the scenario is someone overstays their welcome, it goes from calling the sheriff for trespassing charges to having to take them to court to get them evicted. So that's what losing control looks like. So that's why putting the property on Airbnb, Vrbo, any of those sites that are similar is not an issue, because if you go and you read the fine print, it specifically states they're not facilitating a legal lease agreement. They are just connecting guests with owners and arranging that these guests can stay in these owners' property for a specified period of time, but there's no legal lease agreement. Timeshares, you couldn't do that. The other thing that I hear that loan officers, whoever, tell people is you can't have a property manager, and that's not correct. And a lot of this is reading comprehension, but it's also having done a lot of deals and vetting out my understanding of this comprehension understanding of the policy with Fannie Mae. So underwriters pushing back and saying, no, you can't do that. And you know, standing up because I believe in what I understood, and them actually calling Fannie Mae to verify my understanding, and them having to come back and say, oh yeah, you were right. So property management agreements you don't lose control when you sign a property management agreement, control over the ability to occupy the property. So that's not a problem. Common, I think I covered them.
You covered it, and my understanding is that this restriction in terms of what you can do with the property is only for the first year that you own the property, correct?
With Fannie Mae.
With Fannie Mae.
So yeah, so that's the other key is, as a direct lender for Fannie and Freddie, I can actually go in, and when I'm locking a deal, I can choose which one I want to go with.
Mm-hmm.
So in this space with short-term rentals, I always go with Fannie Mae because they have the most liberal policy, and the very flexible option is after that year, you're released from those occupancy requirements. So if you decided, and the reason why I like that for my clients is they may decide after a year that they want to sign on a long-term lease agreement, or they want to maybe target this market of traveling medical professionals that stay at a property for 3 months. So yeah, after that year, none of those situations would be a problem with Fannie Mae.
Yeah, that's a great point to make. Now, in terms of some of our members are trying to get short-term rentals in metro markets, Jeff. So there are cities where you could essentially use them as long-term rentals. If they live in that specific market, now, do they not need to meet the 50-mile rule now to be able to get a short-term rental in the same market?
There's got to be a logical explanation. So with physicians, medical professionals, that are buying in a downtown area, maybe near the medical district, and they live out in the suburbs, there are situations where they do from time to time need a place to stay, and they want to buy a place near the medical district where if that comes up, they've got that place. So that would make sense. Now, anyone else, that would be hard to justify that scenario. Now, in North Texas, DFW, we've got lakes around the Metroplex where we've had scenarios that, 20 miles away, someone wanted to buy a place in this lake community where they like to go, and they had a boat dock there. And yeah, that wasn't a problem. That made sense as to why they would want to buy a property with the second home occupancy loan, and they could explain that they would be staying there from time to time.
Yeah, Jeff, I've also heard you say that within the same market, you could get 2 short-term rentals as long as the second one is bigger and better. 2 second home loans for 2 properties, as long as the second property is bigger and better. Now, does the second loan have to be a year after the first one's closed for that to be applicable?
It's a better scenario because you're released from the occupancy requirement. The explanation of, hey, we've been there a year, we've owned this property, we figured out it just doesn't work for us, it's too small, we can't have extended family there, and we found this bigger place. It's got a better lot, better view, it's oceanfront, it's mountaintop, that sort of thing, but it just makes sense. So yeah, after a year is the better scenario, but I absolutely love that you've taken detailed notes and used my exact terminology of bigger and better. So
the question keeps coming up. The question keeps coming up, and I lean back on the experts, which is why we love having you here today, Jeff. I actually have a bunch of questions, both on Facebook and here on Zoom. So I'm going to let a few people come and ask you a few questions, and then if we have time, we'll get back to mine. Otherwise, we'll try to get you wrapped up by the end of the hour. Hank, I see your hand raised. Do you want to go ahead and ask Jeff? Your question?
Yeah. Hi, Jeff. I have a question about the occupancy requirement that you were talking about. Let me see. my question is, as long as you said you don't need a rental agreement. So I did short term last year, but I'm doing midterm rental now. But I was thinking of going forward, maybe having a rental agreement to kind of protect myself. Would that be a bad idea of like it would meet the Fannie Mae requirement, right? Like it would be a violation or something like that?
If you use a second home occupancy loan to purchase the property. So yeah, during that first year, that would be an issue. But after that first year, yeah, absolutely no problem. Fannie Mae knocked on the door. Who are you? It's not you. Why are you here? Well, I signed a 6-month lease agreement. If it's after that first year, they're going to say, great. Yeah, no problem. If it's within that first year, they could definitely have issue with that arrangement.
Got it. Okay. So don't do outside rental agreement outside of Airbnb. I was gonna do it in addition to Airbnb to protect myself. That's why.
Yeah, no, and it's if you've got someone staying there more than 30 days, and in the eyes of the law in that state they have tenant rights, that may be an issue that Fannie Mae would have a problem with.
Got it. And then I have another question, because I use a second home loan, and I know when I did my taxes this year, it actually asked like how many days you use it for personal use, and I actually did use it, and I didn't put on there because my CPA said that you shouldn't if you're doing that because there's risk of auditing, and so I didn't put it. But of course, for 2022, I have to put the days I use because it has to be 14 days, right, within 1 year purchasing the property. I closed on December 1st.
So I think, Jeff, Hank's question is like an overlap between the IRS requirements versus mortgage requirements for a second home.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, so there wouldn't be any issue with the amount of days that you put on your taxes for personal use as it relates to the mortgage requirements. So because there's no set amount of days that you have to use it. It just says that for half the year, it has to be available for your personal use. So that's where you get to the losing control, as long as you don't lose control, because technically you've got someone that's got an Airbnb reservation or a reservation through Airbnb Vrbo for next weekend, and then you decided you wanted to use it. Technically you can go in there and cancel that. Now potentially could you get kicked off the platform? Sure, but you're not legally bound for that person, or you're not legally bound to honor that reservation.
Okay. All right. So what I put the number of days personal use on my tax for 2022 doesn't matter.
It does not for me.
Not from a mortgage perspective. I believe if you're doing a cost segregation in that year for that property, then you still need to use it 14 days or less than 10% of your of rental use in that year. If you want to cost segregate it 100% and do bonus depreciation 100%, but from mortgage perspective, Jeff says that doesn't matter, and that's a valid point there, Jeff, because one of our members was asking about 180-day self-use for a short-term rental. And I think that's where it comes, where you said for half the year you need to maintain control over the asset, which if you are using it as a short-term rental, you essentially have control.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yep.
Perfect.
And I'll say on the personal use, because not a lot of people catch this, is if you're documenting that you're working on the property while you're there, it doesn't count towards your personal use. So, that's where your accountant can advise you on apps to use to, track your time, your receipts.
Yes.
Because, gosh, when I'm at my lake house, as much as I go into the trip saying I'm not doing anything while I'm here, I always end up doing, something. So
Yeah, that's a very valid point, Jeff. If it's a business day, then it's not a personal use day. And I think the IRS says if you're spending 4 hours or more on the property, then it qualifies as a business day. So if, like Jeff said, if you're logging your hours and you're making sure it qualifies as a business day, then that's something where you can audit proof yourself over there. Awesome. Jeff, can
Yeah.
we talk quickly about the due on sale clause? Because this is another big question that comes up. There are still a lot of lenders who say, well, if you purchase the property, well, two things. With a short-term rental, I think I've heard you say the first year you don't want to, if you have a second home loan product on it, you don't want to transfer it into an LLC in year one. Is that correct?
Yeah, and it's really one of the ways that Fannie Mae has modernized their policy to reflect what's going on in this asset class. So, you know, a lot of the things that they've done was because people were doing it already, and you know, they wanted to make sure that people weren't in a position where they were actually committing loan fraud. So, you know, over the past year and a half, they've really changed their policy to what we see today. That's made it more friendly towards short-term rentals. And it makes sense because with the second home occupancy loan, you have to show the ability to absorb the PITI payment into your ratios without any consideration that this property will be producing income for the buyer, for the borrower. So, you know, if this person can qualify with their income to repay the mortgage, and then they're going to supplement that ability with the short-term rental income, Fannie Mae is in the business of performing loans. So yeah, why not make it friendly towards short-term rentals? So yes, to answer your question, after a year, Fannie does allow you to transfer title into the name of an LLC without any recourse that they would execute the due on sale clause.
And so for if you have a second home loan product, then you have to wait a year before you can transfer it into an LLC. What about with a conventional mortgage, Jeff? If someone has a 4-unit that they used a conventional mortgage to purchase, can they transfer it into an LLC right after closing? And what happens with the due on sale clause? What criteria do they need to make sure they meet so that that's not triggered?
Well, so on an investment property, it's different. On the second home occupancy loan, it is 1 year. It states that in the second home occupancy rider. Investment property loans, yeah, investors will transfer that title right after closing.
As long as does the ownership have to remain the same in terms of who got the loan versus who owns the LLC? Is there anything over there that could trigger the due on sale clause?
You have to be equal or majority owner in the LLC. So the borrower has to be equal or majority owner in the LLC. Okay. So yeah, 50 or 51%.
Okay, perfect. We have another question from Anna, Jeff, and she says, I think her question is, what is the minimum down payment you need to put in for a DSCR or a asset-based loan product?
For an experienced investor, it's 20%. For someone who does not have any history of owning real estate other than their primary residence, it's 25%. And then we also have been able to use the Fannie conventional product with 15% down for short-term rentals because the rental comps are so strong. So that's an opportunity as well for a full doc loan with a lesser down payment.
With a lesser down payment, and then that has no no prepayment penalty period as opposed to the DSCR. Now, what about the portfolio and the bank statement loans, which are also not based on your income? What is the typical down payment required for those loan products, Jeff?
Those loans, we have second home occupancy loans that we can do through that product or through the portfolio. And we can do as little as 10% down up to $3 million on those.
Okay, and so if someone isn't able to qualify based on their income, or if they've already hit their debt to income ratios, then they could look at those portfolio loan products and still do a lower, a significantly lower down payment.
Yeah, and that's, you know, back to the advantage of having one application for all products. We start with the Fannie box, and then we kind of move our way through each of the boxes when we're doing our pre-approval review. So do people get a little bit frustrated that they can't get same day feedback on their pre-approval? Sure. And that's, you know, back to my point earlier, a lot of brainwashing out there that you can just push a button and get mortgage. But if you want someone to do a thorough evaluation, which I'm sure people would appreciate, that we're going to the extent of making sure that we get everything right, but we're also making sure that we uncover and review all of the opportunities that there would be with the lending.
That's great information. Jeff, we have a few members in the program who are residents, and so their question is, I mean, this is not, even for those who aren't really residents, recent graduates, do all states use student loans in their debt to income ratio calculations, even if they are deferred?
Yes, and it's going to vary as far as what that calculation is and what it's based off of, but yes, we have to consider student loan debt.
Okay. And then I guess the second part of that question is, I know you said physician loan products could be used for a second home also, correct? Are there restrictions in terms of that?
No.
Okay.
They're going to follow, a lot of our portfolio products follow the Fannie policies. So you'll see a lot of similarities, a few nuances, but for the most part, we're going to follow and be in line with what Fannie says.
Got it. Guys, if anyone else has any questions, just raise your hand or you can unmute and ask. We probably have a few more minutes with Jeff here, but if not, I'm going to go ahead and ask a question that I've heard asked before. So with conventional mortgages, Jeff, it's 10 mortgages per individual, and that can be, so spouses can have 10 mortgages each that they're on, which gives you a total of 20. But the question comes up, like, can two spouses get short-term, two separate second home loan products in the same market? Or, you know, I mean, if they're married, is it only one that they're able to get?
Well, so I'll answer your question with a question. If you're married and you go on vacation, do you stay at separate homes?
Interesting point. That kind of does answer the question.
Yeah, so I think that's a gray area that you would get different answer from different loan officers. To me, it just comes across that you're trying to maybe take advantage of the loan product. And I would never want to advise someone where they potentially could be in trouble. So I just stay away from that and just say, you know, hey, go pick another fun area that you like.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. Jeff, I wanted your opinion on a HELOC versus cash out refinances, because a lot of our members, especially with the current market, are trying to tap into that, you know, lazy equity that's sitting in either a primary or an investment property and use it to grow. And the question always is, when did they use which product? And I wanted your take on it.
Well, that answer is a little bit easier than it was 2 months ago. So, you know, today you're talking about letting go of probably an interest rate that's below 4% at least to trade for an interest rate that is so that answer has become easier. But even before I didn't like the idea of commingling debt. Mm-hmm. So I like the idea of a HELOC that you can separate and put the burden of repayment. So we leave that first mortgage debt alone, leave it where it is, let your W-2 income, whatever your business income, repay that mortgage. And then the HELOC, the burden of repayment is on the acquired property. So the other thing that I like about it is, so typically that product is going to be an interest-only payment, so it keeps your liability low. And then, you know, as you pay that mortgage off, as you pay that drawback, now you've created this down payment bank that you can use over and over again for 10 years. So typically, they've got a 10-year draw period where the payment is interest only, and then you have 30 overall years to pay the loan back at. But in that first 10 years, if we can be aggressive, because, you know, if we're buying $1 million property, we can do 10% down. That's $100,000. You know,
Right.
it's not like we're going to try to pay $1 million back in, you know, 4 or 5 years or shorter. You know, it's a relatively manageable number. Now with that, the other thing that I would add, a number that I give people with a 10% down second home occupancy loan is 20%. So how much cash do I need to have ready to deploy? 10% down payment, 3 to 5% for closing costs, and then another 7 to 10% to make the property rent ready.
Yeah.
So, you know, when you're taking out that HELOC, that's a good number to keep in mind is, you know, if you're buying a $500,000 property, just double that 10%, make it 100,000, 120,000. It's always good to have extra. But yeah, I love the idea that we can isolate that acquisition debt, open up a bank account for that short-term rental that we buy, and then everything that we get goes into the bank account. Everything that goes out of that bank account, including paying back the HELOC. So also love the HELOC because, you know, now it becomes a situation where it's not how many cups of coffee can I skip so I can buy, you know, one of these properties. You know, it's leveraging what we've realized through market appreciation and reinvesting that money today versus waiting until we sell the house.
Yes, absolutely. Right. Especially if you're in that growth phase, then the time value of money is so important, like you said. And I know you mentioned that Northpointe does do HELOCs on second homes. So that's always an option if you have an investment property that has increased in value significantly, which has happened for many people in the last few years.
Yeah, you can do it on your primary, and then you buy that vacation home. You know, do it a couple years later down the road. So yeah, potentially you can duplicate that down payment bank.
Yeah, and then the best part, like you said, is that when you have the HELOC, if you aren't drawing from it, it doesn't affect your liability. So your DTI doesn't get affected by that as opposed to a cash out refi. Jeff, I wanted to finally ask you about the delayed financing, because especially in this market, some of our members are paying all cash for a property, and then they, with the intention of going in and refinancing and pulling out that money later to deploy it. Is there, how should they be structuring that so that that can be as seamless as possible if they know ahead of time that they're going in and they're going to be doing it? Do they contact their lender ahead of time, make sure that something is in place so that they can pull it out before the, say, seasoning 6-month period?
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that if you're counting on getting that money back out of the deal, that you would want to get pre-approved before you get into the deal, because you definitely don't want to, you know, lock in and close on a $500,000 purchase and then find out afterwards you don't qualify to do a loan to get that money back out. So yeah, the delayed financing you'd want to get pre-approved for. You can, there's no seasoning requirement. So you could actually be going through that delayed financing process while you're under contract, and then shortly after be in a position where it closes. So, you know, that money is not out very long. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, so on the delayed financing, it's basically on the same line with a cash out refinance where you're limited to 80% loan to value. So you do have to leave 20% in the deal.
Mm-hmm.
And that's based on the lower of the appraised value or the sales price.
Okay.
And then you can't exceed what you put into the deal. Now, if you wait 6 months, then that's where you can get a new appraisal done. You know, you can exceed that amount that you put into the deal up to 80% loan to value. So yeah, some people want to get their money back as soon as possible, and you can do that with delayed financing through the no seasoning, or you know, they want to try to get out as much as they possibly can back out of the deal. And in that scenario, to maximize that opportunity, you'd have to wait 6 months to take advantage of a higher appraisal.
So when you say 80%, Jeff, is that for a long-term rental, or would that apply even to short-term rentals?
Yeah, both.
Both. Okay, it's only 80%. And if they want to pull it out before the 6-month period, then when they're in contract or after they have their offer accepted, is that when they should be talking to their lender and getting things in place?
No, I would do it before then. So I would look at it as a pre-approval.
Okay.
So yeah, before they even make an offer, they'd want to get pre-approved for the delayed financing, knowing that, and you know, you never know. You might be in a situation where someone is willing to take a deal from someone that's using financing, and that's great. We could do it as a purchase deal because you're already approved, or you know, they're only looking at cash offers. Well, great. I'm ready to do that as well, and I know after it's all said and done, I'll be able to do the delayed financing. We can also do that on the DSCR.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, for someone who is self-employed, they're not gonna qualify for the full doc loan. We can do the delayed financing with DSCR as well.
Okay, but I'm assuming with all of these products where you're refinancing, you have to leave 20% equity in.
Yes, on the delayed financing. Yep.
Okay, and even if it were cash out refinance after 6 months?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
It would still require
that's
20% equity to be left in.
Yeah, that's going to be a Fannie standard based on basically a cash out refinance. Max loan to value is going to be 80%.
Okay, and so even if they were to use a physician loan product for that refinance, it would still have to meet that 20% equity left in the property.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. On a
Okay.
second home.
On a second home. That's good to know. Awesome. Jeff, so Dr. Salmia Kumar says she's loved working with your group. You're getting a lot of positive feedback on the Facebook community, but I know we're holding you from that game. We're going to let you go. Before that, if you could tell everyone how they can connect with you and your team, if they want to reach out to you and get pre-approved.
Yeah, absolutely. So the best way to connect with me is to go to my website. So strhomefinancing.com. So Sam, Tom, Robert, homefinancing.com. You'll see a short introduction video from me. It'll lead directly into a list of survey questions. So the survey questions are just to find out, you know, it's like going into the doctor's office and finding out all the symptoms before you actually have that meeting. It just makes the conversation go easier, smoother, more directed. And then you fill out the survey questions, name, phone number, email. It will automatically go to 4 videos that talk about loan products,
Oh, wow.
the process, and then my team and what we bring to the table. They're 5 minutes a piece. It takes 20 minutes. And then at the end, you have 2 options. One, to schedule a consultation call with me, or you can jump right to an application. Once my team sees you've completed the application, we'll schedule an application review call. So the consultation call is, you know, once you get to that point and you provided that information, it's a 20-minute phone call just to talk about maybe some specifics to your scenario. It's not to provide details about what you qualify for or numbers. We'll get that information to you once you fill out the application, and that would be part of the pre-approval process. So yeah, strhomefinancing.com is a great resource and the best way to connect with me.
Awesome. I remember when the webpage was called 10percentdown.com, and I sent everyone to it, and then I've been sending them to Northpointe Mortgage, but I'll put this in the show notes and make sure I send refer people out to this link going forwards.
Well, so 10percentdown.com will take you to that same website.
Got it.
But when I switched over to Northpointe and I had access to all of these different products, I didn't want people to think that they could get the Dscr loan with 10percentdown.com. So
Right.
I had to go from being the 10percentdown.com guy to the STR home financing. So, but it'll take you to the same place.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. But I'm assuming that you have a lot of products that people are looking at long-term rentals can look at also, right? With the portfolio loans, the bank statement, the DSCR, and the conventional mortgages.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, what I tell people is outside of like a hard money fix and flip loan, I've got everything when it comes to up to financing up to 4-unit properties.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much, Jeff. We're dying to get to your son's game. We're going to let you go. This has been super educational, so much valuable information. Thank you for taking the time.